We are back for another month of Supercar Saturday here at the Hard Rock. Lloyd, how are you feeling today?
I'm good, getting in the mood.
A little warm.
It's getting there. Just want to welcome everybody out to Supercar Saturdays Florida. Thank you again, Seminole Hard Rock Casino. We're here today from 9 to 12, 1 Seminole Way, Hollywood, Florida. Look forward to seeing everybody.
Sim racing has become more and more popular over the past few years. Now, originally, a lot of drivers would use simulation racing in order to get a scope and scale of the track and how it would feel. But now it's become even more popular for drivers who can never make it on the track and, of course, cheaper. Behind me is one of the coolest simulators I have ever seen in person. This is an F1 car, and while it currently doesn't have the screens on it, this is actually a simulator. Let's take a look inside, see if we can get in the car and check it out. One thing that I think is really interesting from outside of the car and looking at these cars, obviously you can tell from the way that I'm postured that I'm almost laying completely down, which is very accurate to how an actual Formula One car is. But the halo doesn't actually reduce my visibility at all. It's actually sitting well above eye level for me. And as you can tell, since 2018, when the halo became really prevalent in racing and it became a requirement, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the halo until it quite literally started saving people's lives very early on in the races. It doesn't really affect my visibility. If anything, I do feel a lot more secure having this over my head. It almost feels like I have a roll cage inside of the car. And very, very comfortable to lay down in, which is good. I mean, the race only lasts an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours tops. It's not an endurance race by any means, so we're not going for comfort. But this is a complete simulator. It comes with a quick detach steering wheel, so it's easy to get in and out of the car. I've got my pedals down here at my feet. Very interesting to get in and out of. Of course, it's a Formula car, so it's hard to get in and out of, but full fiberglass shell in here. And I could imagine this sitting as a showpiece in my living room, in my game room, even in my garage, and getting the chance to just pretend like I'm a real race car driver when I don't have the time or money to get to the track. Ela, what do we have here today?
Another Saturday, another Supercar Saturday, and this time we decided to bring out the Exotics babies.
Oh yeah. Can we check them out? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the Exotics Apex. It's our first introduction of what we call our concept vehicle. It's going to be out in 2025. There'll only be 125 of these built for the US market, 325 worldwide. It's an all-electric supercar. We call it the Super EV.
Super EV.
We don't want to call it car because now we're going to just make our own cars called the EV.
Yeah.
So the Super EV, it's the lightest ever supercar, electric supercar in the world.
How much does it weigh?
1,200 kgs, which is
Wow.
approximately 2,200 pounds.
That is incredibly light. How do you guys manage to keep the weight down?
Well, I'll be telling you a secret which I can't tell the world. But the easiest way is we don't have range. So for an EV with no range, you can get why we have it so light.
Small batteries.
Small
batteries.
What gives you an acceleration, you cannot 0 to 60 or 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds.
Ooh,
Top
that
speed
sounds
195
nauseating.
miles. It's going to be fast.
Yeah.
But we didn't care about range. It's not a car for you to go from here to Orlando to Disney World. No, this is a car to feel the energy for 10 seconds, just like most men are, and then that's it, it's done.
Okay, so we have this, but we also have the partner to it right here behind us.
So that's the original inspiration. So right there is what we call the Atix Clifftron. And it's called the Clifftron because it's built for my partner, Wycliffe Jean. He had seen it on television and he had seen the movie. He fell in love with the movie and he said, why not do this? So he decided to do a bike. And I said, okay, we'll build it. So we got Parker Brothers to have it built. They built it for him. So these are a matching pair, all electric, 5-speed electric motorcycle. How cool is that?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. They're powerful. I mean, they're pieces of art, but they're also pieces of the future. And I'm really excited to have them together as a pair.
All electric.
All
And together,
electric.
they're the twins.
The twins. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing these with us
Welcome.
today.
Always.
While we're celebrating Supercar Saturday here in Miami, Florida, overseas, we are experiencing the 24 hours of Le Mans, and there is no better car to have here for Supercar Saturday to celebrate that than this car behind me, the first generation Ford GT made by Ford, the 100th anniversary of Ford celebrating their heritage with Le Mans. So why, of all cars, did you pick a Ford GT? These are pretty niche.
Yeah, no, I've always been a Ford person, and I always wanted one of these, so I bought it about 5 years ago.
5 years ago, and that's a long time to have a car, especially a car like these,
Right.
very raw driving experience. What is it like to drive?
I think it's one of the best cars to drive. It's air conditioned, power steering, power brakes, and it's fast.
Did it live up to the expectations that you
yeah.
had for the car?
Yes, very much.
Do you mind if we take a look inside?
Sure.
So one notable feature about the car, this is a fun GT Easter egg here in the headlight. I mentioned it was the 100th year anniversary. There's actually a 100 here in the headlight that you can see too. These cars have a ton of nods to Ford's racing heritage, which is phenomenal. And this is pretty much a street legal race car. You can tell it from the outside of the car, but especially when you take a look inside of the cabin, it looks like a bona fide race car in every sense of the word. Including, of course, how difficult they are to get in and out of, because you can't have a race car that is comfortable and easy to get in and out of. In the second generation of the Ford GT, you see the EcoBoost, the 6-cylinder engine that you see that gives it a lot of pep and a lot of power, but still keeps it a more modern engine. But in the first generation, we still see these bigger engines. This pushes the boundaries of everything that Ford engineering has to prove for themselves, and is a beautiful nod to Le Mans racing history this week that we are celebrating. If you're just getting into supercars and trying to learn the differences, cars like McLarens, Ferraris, and Lamborghinis can be really difficult to tell apart because you don't know exactly what to look for. So let me give you a hint. It's going to sound silly. How can you tell the difference between a Lamborghini Huracan and a Lamborghini Aventador? There's a lot of difference between these two cars, but if you want one guaranteed way to tell it, take a look at the headlight. Remember, A for Aventador, the headlights actually look like an upside down A. It sounds silly, but if you're looking for a way to get into supercars and you want to memorize the small differences, that's the one thing to keep in mind. Now, of course, this car looks absolutely nothing like a Huracan besides the fact that it's a Lamborghini, and once you get to know the differences, they're very easy to tell apart. But if you're just learning, this is one thing that I would always point out. Behind me is the Lamborghini Gallardo, Lamborghini's highest selling car of all time. This was the first car created with the Audi marquee in mind. It shares a very, very similar platform to the Audi R8, but what makes this one special is it's actually a gated manual. Come check it out because these gated manuals are to die for and the most desirable version of the car possible. So the Gallardo is special because it's got the V10 setup that you also see in the Audi R8, and unfortunately for Gallardo owners, that means that it's got regular doors that swing open and close like every other car. Now, this is a major benefit to anyone who doesn't like the scissor doors that you see on V12 Lamborghinis, but it still has beautiful and iconic styling. There were around 14,000 of these produced from 2003 to 2013, and it is the highest production, highest selling Lamborghini of all time. Come take a look at this gated manual shifter. Absolutely stunning. The interior of these you can see, especially the center console there, is a lot of the styling cues that we still see in modern Lamborghinis today. I know things. You should know by now, I'm already biased towards British cars, and behind me is one of my favorite cars of all time. This is a Lotus Evora S. Now, what makes these cars really special is the fact that they have a Toyota base motor, which makes them one of the only cool exotic cars that you can buy, work on easily, and have a good time driving. I mean, you can beat these 2GRFE engines up, no problem, and they come as a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, one thing that makes this car really noticeable is lately in the press, you might have seen the newest edition of the Lotus lineup, the Lotus Emira, and it shares almost 70% of its makeup with the Lotus Evora. Now, the first generation of the Lotus Emira does share the 2GRFE platform, and it's still offered as a 6-speed, but if you don't want to wait for those to hit the streets, you can still buy these Lotus Evoras out there from anywhere from $35,000 up to $100,000, making them one of the most affordable, fun, exotic mid-engine platforms that you can buy and work on yourself. Behind me is one of the most iconic cars of the 90s. This is the Lamborghini Diablo. Behind me is the first full production car ever created solely by McLaren, the McLaren MP412C. Now I know the name is a little confusing, but it does actually have a lot of meaning behind it. MP for McLaren Project, 12 actually stands for on the McLaren Internal Index of Performance, which is not known to the public. They rate this car 12, and C for the carbon monocoque, the monocell chassis. It's completely carbon. You can actually see a little bit of the carbon weave if you look inside the door jambs. This car is completely carbon fiber, which keeps the weight reduction down, and it has an incredible handling experience. Now, as you walk around it, you'll see that it has the dihedral door hinges. This itself is a spider, meaning it's the convertible all around the end. And one cool upgrade to this, it actually has this long tail addition to the air brake. This is a carbon, but it is not stock to the car. It does look very cool and makes it look modern. So these cars started in the early 2010s, and what's spectacular about them is they look just as modern today as they did when they first hit the market. Well, the McLaren MP412C is special because it was the first street production car that you see from the brand. Behind me, we have a car that's just as special, if not more, the McLaren Senna, named after Ayrton Senna, one of the most iconic racing drivers in all history. Now, the car itself is very striking in appearance. It is complete carbon, just like the MP412C, but what's more notable about this is the amount of aerodynamics and engineering that is very important in the car. You see here the headlights through all of the air that travels through the car and around the car to the rear air brake here. You have the Mohawk scoop that brings air into the engine compartment, these giant side scoops. These engines get incredibly hot. They're meant to run for performance and longevity, unlike some performance cars, which means you have to keep the engine running, you have to keep it cool down, and every part of this car is designed to maximize aerodynamics and performance and live up, of course, to the name Ayrton Senna. With cars that come from all over the world, there are a ton of car names that are commonly mispronounced, and behind me is one of them. This is a Renault, not a Renault. What is your least favorite car that is commonly mispronounced? Let us know in the comment section down below. Or of course, if you got a little bull in your blood and you're going more Italian, the Lamborghinis, including Lamborghini SUVs like the Urus, all the way through Huracans, Aventadors, Gallardo, anything you can imagine, within reason. If you cringed a little bit when I said Lamborghini, chances are you are going for Lamborghini's biggest competitor. And of course, we wouldn't be Supercar Saturday if we didn't have Ferrari. One of the main differences between the first generation Ford GT and the second generation GT is the seats. Obviously, these seats are ventilated. These are very, very good race seats, but they move, whereas the second generation Ford GT seats are fixed and the pedals actually move to adjust to the driver. Also, extra bonus points for this headspace. Getting in and out of this car is significantly easier than you find in other race car simulated or street homologated race car-esque vehicles, where you have more complicated doors, lower sills. Wide sills here make it really difficult to get in and out of, but luckily having this opening space, much more comfortable to get in and out of, and no worries of a concussion. That wraps up another amazing day of Supercar Saturday. How do you feel?
Oh, it was an awesome day. Thank you everybody for coming out. Appreciate it again the Seminole Hard Rock Casino. I see you all guys all again next month. Thank you.